Welcome in for movie number 47. This time we're talking about the latest musical biopic, Michael, which is more of I'd say it's more of a concert film than an actual biopic. If you're new here, I've been doing movie reviews for every movie I've seen in the theater so far this year. If you liked any of the videos, you like this video or any of my past videos, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. I first usually discuss kind of a spoiler-free section before I go into spoilers, but since this is a biopic and everybody knows about Michael Jackson for the most part, I'm not gonna do it this time. I'm just gonna talk about the movie. So this one is directed by Antoine Fuqua, who's done the Equalizer series. He also did Training Day, which is what kind of made he made his name on in Olympus Has Fallen, and he has a long history of different movies he's directed. Stuff you've probably recognized, some stuff you might not recognize. I think he kind of has an interesting catalog of films that he's done. And then this was written by John Logan, who brought you Alien Covenant, Spectre, and Skyfall. A couple interesting movies in there, and then one that I think a lot of people are iffy on with the Alien Covenant, although maybe the James Bond ones people aren't iffy on as well. So Michael stars Jaafar Jackson, Michael's nephew, who plays Michael Jackson himself, and this is his first role, at least from what I can tell. And then this also has Nia Long as Catherine, who was in Missing, and she's been in NCIS LA, a bunch of other things as well. Then you also have Coleman Domingo as Joseph Jackson, and he was recently in The Running Man, Wicked for Good, Dead Man's Wire. He's been in a lot of different things. So the synopsis for this movie is, discover the story of Michael Jackson, one of the most influential artists the world has ever known, and his life beyond the music, tracing his journey from the discovery of his extraordinary talent as the lead of the Jackson 5 to the visionary artist whose creative ambition fueled a relentless pursuit to become the biggest entertainer in the world, highlighting both his life off stage and some of the most iconic performances from his early solo careers. I don't think the movie is about any that stuff. It covers some of it. That movie sounds like it's going to be a deep dive into Michael as an artist. I don't think they really do enough in the film to really go that far. I was going to watch it just because I watched pretty much everything, but the trailers didn't have me intrigued by it at all. I thought the trailers looked pretty bad for this film, and it could just be how they were edited, because for the most part I enjoyed the movie, controversies and all, but it is a surface level biopic. It acts more like a concert film instead of really diving into the history of Michael outside of some of the stuff you've probably already seen. Like, I think they had that mini series years ago on the Jacksons, which dives more into the Jackson 5 and kind of Michael's background as a kid. They do start out there in this movie, where focus of this movie is primarily between the 60s to 1988. So 88 is when the movie ends. And it actually is set up for a possible sequel that they maybe will continue on. If this does good enough, who knows? It starts out with the Jackson 5 grind and how their dad pushed them. He beat Michael. He was very controlling. Follows them through the Motown era. Follows them when they get to California. And then basically it kind of just hits these points along the way that people know of Michael Jackson and his family. And they don't really go super deep into it. You know, when they're in California, this is where he kind of finds his love of animals in finding friendship within the animals. So he gets a giraffe, he gets a llama. They do have a chimpanzee, Bubbles, in the movie for part of it. So another biopic with a chimp in it, because there's that Robbie Williams one. And then there's also some aspects of it that you see in his childhood and why there's a lot of moments where Michael comes off as a little bit childish. A lot of that has to do with he didn't really have a childhood with how his father Joseph treated him and his family. He didn't really have a lot of friends, and so he kind of hit into books like Peter Pan, and that's where you see a lot of influence. They actually show a number of scenes in this movie of this Peter Pan book where you see Peter's face, and it kind of hints at the nose that Michael Jackson ends up with, especially in his latter end of his life. But you see this moment in one of the scenes where he kind of touches Peter Pan's face and he wants like a smaller nose. And so they do tackle the nose job a little bit in the movie. It's not very much. It's like he goes in, he gets the nose job. He tries to sneak into the house because everybody's still living at this house in Encino, I believe. His father sees what happened and he was like, what? But then he just kind of walks back into his room. They do slightly put some content in there that indicates Michael's stunted kind of childhood and how that's kind of impacted him through the rest of his life. They don't really dive too deep into it. You do see scenes of him in the hospitals and stuff, talking to kids and talking to other burn victims, especially after his Pepsi incident. There's probably a few things that aren't, I guess, historically accurate in this movie. It leads up to his like solo outing. And a lot of it focuses on the Thriller release and on, even though he had a few other releases before that, it kind of plays off like this is his big break as a solo artist. They don't really talk about too much of his writing process in the movie. There is one scene in where he is kind of working on this album, Thriller, and all the big hits that came off of that, but they don't really dive into it other than him going into his home studio and kind of working on the lyric. And that's where he's watching the news and sees all this gang violence happening, and that's where he brings people in from the Bloods and Crips to be part of the Beat It short film. And then it goes into Thriller and Pepsi. It's just like one greatest hits thing after another. It basically just ends with Michael at the last show of this victory tour for the Jackson 5. And then that transitions into him playing in London, and that's where the show ends in 88. And that's where the movie ends within 88. A lot of it felt a little flat in regards to the drama in it, because I guess the big instigation is that at this last victory tour concert is when he announces this is going to be their last show together. He's going solo and it takes his dad by surprise. And they do an interesting thing when they do pivot into that last music number in London, where they're coming off the stage and then it transitions into him walking on the stage. I actually enjoyed that, like on a directorial level, and like artist styling was pretty cool. But the performances here I think are kind of the strongest thing. Primarily Jaafar. He was amazing as Michael. You're watching this movie and you think you're kind of watching Michael Jackson. And I don't think the trailer really shows that aspect. It comes off a little cheesy in the trailer, at least in how I saw it. And then Nia Long's decent for what she has as the kind of supportive mother for that time. And then Colman Domingo's performance as Joseph is a bit one-noted. And it took me a second to realize it was Colman Domingo, primarily just because of his voice. His voice is very distinctive, but then he does look surprisingly like Joseph Jackson in this due to the prosthetics. And I think that's kind of where it got a little off for me in his performance, because the movie is really about Joseph and Michael's relationship and how Michael becomes a solo artist. Is that the overall story they're trying to cover here? That's probably chosen in regards to it doesn't tackle any of the controversies that Michael had as a human outside of the music world and any of the allegations that came up against him. Even though I've heard that they did film some of that stuff in like to the early 1990s, that a lot of it got put on the cutting room floor. And it does feel as though there might have been a third act here that just got cut and they just ended the movie. It feels a lot like that, especially when the movie ends in 1988 at this one last performance. It feels that they could have went on for maybe another 30 minutes to cover some of these scenarios for the allegations and some of those darker moments of Michael's life. But they don't really go there. They focus on this one particular aspect, and a lot of it is with Joseph and Michael. That makes sense because most of the family is part of the producing of this movie. They're behind it. They support it, except for Janet. Janet's not in the movie at all. She doesn't even show up in it with her name. They don't mention her. They mention everybody else. And that's like another thing with this movie. You don't really see anything, the other Jackson kids, outside of them just being in the background for Michael, which I guess makes sense for a movie called Michael. It's really about him and how he went solo. But Colman Domingo's performance is, I want to say it's good, but it felt very one-noted. He was just kind of a jerk the entire time and just came off as this self-centered, egotistical person who feels that everything they've done in their life is because of him, even though it's really his kids who got him to the place they're at. And then there's a nice cameo appearance by Mike Myers as another record producer, and I know he was in the Queen biopic as well. And it took me a second to realize it was Mike Myers. I had to look over to my wife and be like, is that Mike Myers? She's like, yeah. You really tell from the eyes, but the makeup and stuff, it takes you a second to realize that it's him. I was like, oh, he's playing another movie. What movie is he going to be in next as an exec record producer? Who knows? Miles Teller's in this as Michael Jackson's agent back after Thriller. I don't know why he's in this movie, why they have that character. He's not in it very much. And then that's pretty much the movie. You just see a bunch of like big hits through Michael's career with a little bit of insights into what his home life was living with his parents. They didn't really talk about Neverland Ranch. I don't know when Neverland Ranch was built or when he moved out, but this movie assumes that, you know, at least until 88 or a couple years before that, Michael was living at the Jackson compound, I guess, that's Encino before he built Neverland, but this is where he has all the animals and everything. The movie is, for the most part, it was entertaining. I think the directing was fine. I think it was way better than the Queen movie in regards to the overall direction of the film and how it looked, because there's some stuff in the Queen movie that was a little over top and a little cheesy. There could be some stuff in here, you could say that as well, but visually, the way they did Jaafar and turned him into Michael Jackson was pretty phenomenal. Outside of the Thriller makeup looked a little weird at a few scenes. And then the music here, you know, you got Michael Jackson's music, which is, you know, it's iconic. You got some of his big hits here. The pacing in the movie, it was just boom, one greatest hit after another. They don't really spend too much time in a lot of places. They use kind of interesting transitions to move from like one time to another. And there's also a lot of montages, especially with the runtime of this movie trying to cover 30 years. A lot of montages, and that's where a lot of the time shifting happens as well. And who would like this movie? I don't know. If you like Michael Jackson's music, you probably enjoy this movie. It was an entertaining popcorn movie if you look past all the allegations, and this is what that movie's going to get talked about for the most part, is all the allegations against Michael Jackson. That's fair for people to critique it on that, but as just looking at just the art itself and the people who put time into this movie, it was an entertaining popcorn film. Nothing super special. It's not, you know, as epic as you probably could make a Michael Jackson movie if you really wanted to dig into kind of the darker aspects of him as a human being, and I guess a tortured artist that they could have went down. I'd give Michael 3 stars. If you've been enjoying these reviews, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Share out, comment. Let me know what you thought about Michael. Is it something you're interested in seeing? Did you see it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments. But until next time, I hope you have a good day.